Hey, how's it going everybody? Sinful Duck here, and welcome to another Grim Dawn video. Today we're doing an update video for my Life Drinker build. This is my Drain Essence Spellbinder. So we've made some changes to it as far as we've changed some gear, we've changed skills, we've changed devotions since the last video, so I want to take a couple minutes and just go over the changes and show you guys a little bit of this build in action. I've gone around and got some boss fights as well as some nemesis fights, and this build handles them quite nicely. So let's jump into the changes real quick and then we will get into the gameplay. Let's do it. So the first item I want to start with is going to be the weapon. We went ahead and changed the weapon. We were running a blue weapon in this spot, the Jorvik's Bite, I think it was. We ended up swapping that out for Wrath of the Ascendant. Now, I didn't have Wrath of the Ascendant when I created the last video, so this was definitely a giant upgrade for this build. And the big bonuses to this are going to be, number one, you're getting a huge amount of Aether damage on this weapon. +1 all Arcanist, all Necromancer. We're not using Reckless Power, so that's not terribly important. We are getting a lot of casting speed, as well as health, but we get 20% damage to humans. That is a lot of bonus damage against humans. But the big thing here is going to be the granted skill Ascendant's Wrath. 100% chance on crit that we are going to deal some Aether damage, drop their OA and DA, and 20% Aether resistance. That is massive. We've paired this up with our Seal of Corruption as well as the Outcast's Wrath Augment. The next change that we've made is going to be to the rings. In the previous video we were using Screams of the Aether, but we did not have the mythical version. Now we have the mythical version, which gives us another +2 to Drain Essence, as well as a lot of increased stats, such as the Aether damage. This again is giving us casting speed, it's giving us damage to ethereals, which is very, very nice. 15% damage to ethereals, and you're going to notice through some of these items that we are stacking a lot of bonus ethereal damage. So we're using Mythical Screams of the Aether here. The granted skill, you can see it does a lot of damage. 100% chance when you're hit by melee that it's going to hit almost a 5-meter radius, which is a fairly good size, for up to 30,000 Aether damage. 30,000 Aether damage. That is without any buffs to monster types like ethereals, humans, that kind of thing. It also doesn't take into account crits, so when this goes off, it hits really hard. We've paired this up with a Runebound Topaz as well as a Survivor's Ingenuity Augment. Second ring, again, Mythical Screams of the Aether. We just went ahead and used the same ring. It's such a powerful ring that I couldn't pass it up. Again, we're getting the damage here. We're getting damage to ethereals, so now we're at 30% damage to ethereals there, and we're going to get more. We're getting more casting speed from this ring. We're getting our resist, but the big thing that this ring gives you outside of its obvious damage bonuses is going to be elemental resistance. Elemental resist was very hard to come by on this build, and this ring alone is giving me 28%. And this one is giving me another 27, so that's taking care of a large portion of our elemental resist right there on those two. Next thing we changed up here was the Ouroboric's Eye. We were using that, obviously, in the last one. We are using the full Ouroboros set, just like we were before. But we've changed out the focusing prism for the Seal of Annihilation. Didn't have access to it at the time, I don't think. But I do now, and I'm running that, so we are getting a little bit of extra spirit. We're getting casting speed instead of crit damage from the focusing prism. Same skill energy cost reduction, but we are getting the Annihilation skill. So it's a 15% chance on crit that it's going to drop their health, their OA, DA, and lower their health regen. And again, we have that paired with a Survivor's Ingenuity. On the helmet, we also changed out our component to the Titan plating. We were using a leathery hide. We've changed that out to a Titan plating. So we're getting a little extra physique, armor, some pierce resist, which was very important, and reflected damage reduction. So very cool there. Nice upgrade for the build. Nothing's changed on the Ouroboros eye. We are using Imbued Silver, which is giving us 15% damage to Chthonics. And again, we're using the Outcast's Wrath. So the Outcast's Wrath, the augment, we have that on our weapon and our offhand. And that is giving us 6% damage to Ethereals. So we're looking at 12% damage total from our weapon and offhand augments. On the shoulders, we are running Living Armor as a component now, as well as Kingsguard Powder. The gloves, Mythical Aether Reach, those are still the same as last time. We are running Unholy Inscription now, however, instead of the Spellwoven Threads, I think it was. This is giving us Vitality damage, offensive ability. It's giving us Vitality and Bleed resistance, which is very nice. Another item that we've changed out here is the boots. We were running the Mythical Dreadwalkers for the 100% fear chance, but now we're running Mythical Wraithwalkers. So this is giving us some Aether damage, movement speed, DA. It's giving us 5% physical resistance, which is very strong. Don't underestimate the power of physical resistance. So we are running physical resist, but the granted skill is actually quite nice. 100% chance when hit that you're going to gain 20% movement speed, and for 5 seconds, you're going to have 30% chance to avoid melee attacks and projectiles. So after that first hit, you're going to be fast and you're going to take less damage. You're going to be harder to hit. We've paired that with Mark of Mogdrogan and a Blade Ward Powder. Another thing that these boots do for us here is actually give us +2 to Spectral Binding. So that actually helps us increase our damage further, because Spectral Binding is giving us not only extra health, but it's giving us % Aether damage, and it's giving us flat OA. Another big change to the build here is our metal. I can't even remember which metal we were running. We were running the Gildum Arcanum Commendation, I think it's called. But now we're running the Mythical Mark of Anathema. This is giving us % Aether damage. It's giving us 15% damage to Ethereals. So now instead of 42, we're at 57% damage to Ethereals. So if we're fighting Ethereals, we are doing massive bonus damage. We're gaining OA, cast speed, armor increase, we're getting resist, we're getting so much from this metal. At the bottom, you see we are getting +2 to Siphon Souls. We're getting flat Aether damage to Siphon Souls, minus OA to Siphon Souls. However, in this version of the build, we are no longer running Siphon Souls. Our belt, we are still running the Mythical Cord Violent Decay. No changes here. Still with an Ugdenbog leather, just like before. Our relic is the Impurity Relic. You know what? I've looked for different relics to see if there's anything else that could be more useful in this slot, and I really haven't found anything. There is the Ouroboros Relic, which is very nice, but the granted skill just isn't practical with this build. But it is nice if you have access to that and not the Impurity, you can use that. But I would say Impurity is going to be the best fit here. On the legs, we are still running the Wraithborn leg wraps. However, we did change the component to an Ugdenbog leather. Our chest is still the Ouroboros robes, and it is still using Hallowed Ground. We haven't really made any changes here. And that is it. That is all the gear. You guys can see the stats over here that we're running. This is without any devotion procs. So, good amount of physique. We're running 75 points in physique, 0 cunning, and 30 spirit. The reason we're running 30 in spirit, that might seem a little bit high, but we are running 30 spirit so that we make sure that our energy regen stays high enough to sustain our DPS. And at 30 spirit, it is a very solid number. Our OA is 2883. That does go up when we use Devotion procs. Same with DA, that's 2630, but again goes up with Devotion procs. And our DPS, I've gotten a lot of questions about DPS on these builds, and you can see it's almost 210,000 DPS. That is not a bug. It's not a bug. It's because it's taking its damage number from our channeled skill Drain Essence. So when you look at Drain Essence, it's showing that damage number of about 20,000. It ticks like every 0.1 second. With our casting speed, it ticks every 0.1 or 0.15 or something like that. So when you're looking at 20,000 damage and it's ticking roughly 9 to 10 times per second, that 210,000 DPS really is not wrong. It's very easy to calculate DPS on a channeled skill, and the game actually does it quite well. When you're looking at DPS that has much lower numbers for something like a spammable skill, like a Panetti's or a Diviner's Spellbinder, anything like that, part of the reason that the damage is lower is because those attacks don't tick nearly as fast as a channeled skill. So Drain Essence is actually, you might see smaller numbers popping up on the screen, but you're getting so many more of them that the damage is insanely high. So let's jump into the skills real quick and take a look at what we've got going on there. So here in the skills, not much has changed. We are running, we've got 3 in Iskandra's Elemental Exchange, 12 out of 12 Elemental Balance, 12 out of 12 in Mirror. Do not overcap that. It doesn't really benefit you that much to overcap this. Maven Sphere, we are overcapping that because Maven Sphere gives you damage absorption, but as you can see it says total damage modified by -6%. What that does is, in exchange for absorbing 20% of the damage, it also lowers the amount of damage that you deal. As you overcap that, that percentage goes down. So for every extra point you go over the cap, you gain a % of damage back. So overcap Sphere as much as you can. I have it at 14. If I could get some more in there, I probably would, because that is a great damage bonus. We're at 6 out of 10 on Conversion. That's giving us our Stun, Freeze, Petrify reduction. We are at 14 out of 12 Inner Focus. You don't need to overcap this. I do have it at 14 out of 12. You really don't need to. It does give you extra spirit, but you don't benefit as much from the % OA for overcapping. I probably should take those extra 2 points out and move them, but that's where it is for right now. If I could recommend moving those, I would probably take those points out and move them into maybe Spectral Wrath, or put them into our next skill here, which is Devastation. Devastation, this is an AoE Meteors. You guys probably already know what the skill does, but it's doing crazy damage for us. It's a great AoE skill. We're not running Reap Spirit or Siphon Souls anymore in this build. We've pumped up Devastation to take that place, and it does so well. I'll be honest, I really only use it against heroes and bosses. I don't use it at all really against trash, because Drain Essence handles that so well. But yeah, we've got Devastation in here. That's going to be a huge damage bonus when it comes to fighting bosses. And it is AoE, so when bosses like Musalak spawn his little ice crystals, it does help clear those while still focusing on the boss. We've got 3 out of 10 here, Nullification. Nullification is a surprisingly strong skill, always worth 1 point in anything that's running Arcanist. And just because we have a bunch of plus to skill, I think I only have actually 1 point in this, but with 1 point we are at 7 out of 12 here on Fabric of Reality, which is just giving us a little bit of bonus to our Aether damage. On the Necro side, we are still running, obviously, Drain Essence. Everything maxed out with as many points as we can. We are running Harbinger of Souls. We have 18 out of 12 Spectral Binding. That is, again, like I said during the gear, very important because you're getting percent Aether, health, and OA. Our Spectral Wrath. This is very important because it not only does it actually deal a lot of damage, but it drops their Aether resistance by 35%, which is huge. We have 7 out of 10 in Mark of Torment. We're running Ill Omen. We're using this because you place it on one target and it spreads. It goes from target to target. It does deal a little bit of damage, so we do have a devotion attached to it, which is our Phoenix Fire, so it does proc that for us. But the biggest reason that we use this is because it reduces the target's physical damage by 15%. So this is a big damage reduction. That is also pairing well with a new skill to this build, which is Ravenous Earth. So Ravenous Earth is a ground AoE. You can see it's dealing vitality and poison. Extremely low damage. We're not focusing those damage types, so it's very low. We're at 5 out of 16 here. I think that's only 1 point. But on Decay, we did go 12 out of 12 here. Because as long as they're being affected by Ravenous Earth, they have 25% reduced damage. So as long, if you're fighting a boss, a nemesis, whatever, as long as you can keep Ravenous Earth active, they deal 25% less damage. So that is very, very strong. And then just for good measure, we have, again, 1 point, which puts us at 5 out of 12 here in Foul Eruption, which reduces their health. It also gives us flat resistance reduction, which is by far the strongest damage booster in the game. The downside to Foul Eruption, the reason that we don't have it maxed out, is because Foul Eruption is a proc. It only works, not if they're affected by Ravenous Earth, but if someone affected by Ravenous Earth dies. They have to actually die, and when they die, their corpse explodes and affects all these things onto enemies around them. So, can it help? Yes. If you're fighting against a boss and he spawns adds, it can help. So we do have a point in it, but it's not going to be effective most of the time. So that is our skills. Let's go ahead and jump into devotions real quick, because the devotions we have changed up quite a bit. We are still running the Widow here for Arcane Bomb as well as Aether damage. We've got points here in the Eel because, oh my god, the Eel is amazing for DA. Down here, we've changed up a lot. We have the Owl. So this whole section right here, the Owl, the Wolverine, Toad, we're running all of those because we needed the points, the affinity points that they give us. So the Owl, we're getting a couple of good things out of it. We're getting some spirit there, a little energy reduction, elemental resist. Toad is kind of the same way. It's not incredibly useful for us. All of these, the Owl, the Toad, the Wolverine, which the Wolverine is useful. It does give us quite a bit of DA actually. But we're using those and the Hawk to open up other constellations. So we've opened up the Chariot of the Dead, which is giving us massive amounts of OA and is giving us a proc. So we had this in the previous build, we still have it now. It gives us a DA proc as well as a heal over time, which is incredibly, incredibly strong. I highly recommend using Chariot in just about any build you can get your hands on it. It's also opened up Bard's Harp for us, so we're getting lots of energy regen from this one, as well as the skill here, the proc, Inspiration. This does not only affect you, it also affects your party. You can see here it's got a 15-meter radius, so it actually will affect your party in a large area. It gives you percent of energy, so when it goes off, you're going to get back 25% of your energy. You're going to get regen, and you're getting a big OADA proc from this as well. So, like I said, when we get our devotion procs going, our OADA can really go up. Down below here, we do have the lantern. We're using this not only just for the points that we need to get from it, but it is giving us more regen, more OADA, crit damage, all damage, casting speed, more energy regen. It's got a lot of useful things for this build in it. So we do have the lantern, which also gets us over to the Phoenix. The Phoenix is giving us a lot of aether damage, but the Phoenix Fire proc is great. For a damaging ability, it's not that great. The 5-meter radius is okay. The damage is okay. But what we really like this for is the 128 flat damage absorption. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it really can help. And now on to our final devotion, which is the most important, and honestly, it is one of the best devotions I have used in this game yet, which is Ataxaru, the Mirage. It's giving us, look at this, Aether damage, DA. Elemental, meh, but more DA. Pierce resist, bleed resist, both very important. Health and percent DA. More Aether damage, and oh my gosh, the Arcane Currents skill. 15% chance on attack. We have this bound to Drain Essence because Drain Essence, like we talked about earlier, it attacks a lot. It attacks super fast, so that 15% chance is going off a ton. You can spawn 4 Arcane Currents, which leaves a little like purple rune on the ground, and these runes send out beams of energy that attack your enemies. Now, when you look at the damage on this, it says you can summon 4, so you can have 4 of them out at a time. They live for 4.5 seconds. They have a 14-meter range, which is really big, actually. But you look at the damage, Aether and Elemental, it gets 40% bonus crit damage. Now, Arcane Currents is great because it scales off of player damage bonuses. These things drop, and they crit for about anywhere from 25 to 30,000 each, and there's 4 of them. So these things are dealing a lot. I mean a lot of free damage. They are one of the coolest looking devotions, I think, and they are incredibly useful. So that's enough talking. Let me actually get into some gameplay where you guys can see this in action. You're going to see the Arcane Currents. You're going to see all these things working together. We're going to take down some bosses, some nemesis. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and got some use out of it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And consider subscribing if you want to see some more Grim Dawn content. And that is all I have for today. Thank you for watching again, and enjoy the gameplay, and I will see you guys next time.